Sitting mostly forgotten in Alberta's prairie lands lies Rowley, a once bustling community of 500 people, now a ghost town with a population of just 9. Rowley was settled around 1910 by families of nearby farmers to facilitate the collection and loading of farm products onto trains bound for Calgary. It was incorporated in 1912 and named after Lieutenant Colonel Charles Walsh Rowley. When the Canadian National Railway came to Rowley in 1919, it solidified its role as a railway town. It wasn't long before the town of Rowley became a hub of activity. Large fields were planted, harvested, and transported through the Rowley train station. Between 1915 and 1929, the local farmers built stores, banks, and other services in town so that they didn't have to travel long distances to get what they needed. A school, a post office, and church were built, and Rowley was officially connected by rail to the rest of the province. Everything in Rowley was perfect, until it wasn't. The Great Depression had no mercy on its relentless tear across western towns. Rowley was no exception to the struggles of widespread drought and market collapse. The grain industry lost most of its value, farmers who had overextended themselves upgrading their farms and livelihoods were left unable to afford the upkeep of their farms, and businesses in town began to close. By the 1940s, people began packing up and leaving Rowley using the new train station. The town was in a serious decline. With the construction of Alberta's highway system in the 1950s, Rowley was completely bypassed and left behind. These roads made it easier for young people to leave Rowley in favor of Drumheller, Calgary, or Edmonton. In 1965, the train station and school closed down. The last business in town to close down was the grocery store in 1973. At this point, Rowley only had a few optimistic residents left and was now considered a ghost town. Usually, this would be the end of a town, leading to its abandonment, but the determined remaining residents chose to preserve their town's history instead of letting it be forgotten. Join me for a look at historical Rowley. Alright guys, so we've made it to Rowley, which is considered a ghost town. The population here is about 9 people to 12 people, depending on what website you look at, but this was an early 20th century town that was an agricultural town. Now, by 1970s, with hardship and financial struggles, this town ended up closing, and a lot of these buildings ended up abandoned and disused. What's interesting about here is because this is a pretty old pioneer town, most of these buildings generally would be falling apart, completely abandoned, burnt down, knocked down. In the 1970s, the residents decided that they wanted to revitalize this place and make it into a historic tourist destination. So now we have a pretty awesomely preserved ghost town that we get to check out. So we're going to walk around here and I'm going to show you guys the buildings now. We're here in the winter. In the summer months, they do offer tours and you can go into some of the buildings, but we're here in the winter, so that's probably not going to happen. And a lot of these buildings are owned by the locals that live in the town still, and they upkeep and maintain them. So we're going to respect that, and we're just going to walk through the town, down the streets, and show you guys from the outside what the buildings look like. Give you as much history as I can. I don't know everything about the place, obviously, but I'll try my best. So with that, let's walk around and see what there is. So this beautiful house here originally was not blue. They ended up painting it for a movie that they filmed here called Bye Bye Blues. But this housed several families at one point. Clearly now it sits abandoned. This would actually be one of the kind of houses I would love to film as its own video, but this is a different kind of scenario, this place. So this house will be just left as is. But it is a gorgeous home. Beautiful front porch. You can see inside too. It's actually in pretty decent shape. But yeah, this is a very old home that sits abandoned. From what I read online, it was a hospital at one point. And then it was converted into a family home for multiple families. There probably was a back deck, not a back deck, a upstairs porch at one point, and is gone now. Across the street from it, we have the town's church. Now, this closed down, I believe, in 1969, pretty much when everything around here started to go downhill financially, and when the markets changed, essentially, of how goods and services were being done. Now, the church does open every so often for weddings, which is pretty cool. It'd be cool to get married here, potentially, with the old ghost town vibe behind it. So it's the Rowley United Church. Beautiful stained glass. Off to the side of it here, we do have a playground with some very old looking playground equipment. You can tell that these pathways are probably fairly new because they do have visitors coming in the summer. Across the street, we have a funeral home and embalming building. Now, it's pretty interesting because this was originally constructed for the movie Bye Bye Blues, and the town decided to make it into a building that they can use. I believe it's a pool hall. Now, this is probably one of the newer buildings, I'd imagine, in Rowley here. So a lot of these are either rebuilt or original. They've all been renovated to a certain degree. But the funeral home and embalming building here was actually built for a movie. It was Bye Bye Blue, if I'm not mistaken. Now, it was just the front of the building that they used for the movie, and a different movie used it as a funeral home. So what the town decided to do instead was make it a full building, and then I guess make it like a pool hall, which is very cool. Instead of getting rid of a nice building that really matches the rest of the town, you might as well just continue and build it up and make it into something that the town can enjoy and use, all like 9 people of it. Funeral home and embalming. Pickup embalming services available 7 days a week. Headstones and caskets. Pepsi Cola thing is very cool. Now, like I said, we can't go in any of these buildings. They're not open. They're private property. You're okay. It seems that you can walk around the buildings, but we want to respect that. They spend a lot of time and money keeping these buildings up. But as you can see, it says the community made this into a building after the movie Bye Bye Blues. On February 22nd, 1949, the Rowley Billiard Club was formed. Shares were sold at $25 per share. Shareholders were Ed and Gordon Bremer, and then a bunch of other people. The pool hall was a popular place for tournaments, and they were held, and there were prizes, stuff like that. But it says right here too, the big table is original from Rowley, as well as the barber chair. So I'm assuming when you're inside you can actually see it, but give you a nice little look inside of the pool hall right here. It is very, very cool. And I believe the original chair is right there that they're talking about, which is very, very cool. It looks old, eh? I love this. Only one more trespasser and my wind chime is complete. And it is bullets. That's a pretty good sense of humor. Probably can take a peek into this window as well. Might give us a little better view. Yeah, it's very nice in there. Is there life after death? Trespassers? Trespass and find out. Oddly specific. But walking down the road here, like the soil's so red, so many buildings. It really does feel like a Western town. And that's why a lot of movies have come and filmed here, which I think is pretty cool. Now, if we cut across the street, we'll come over to the bank here. So this building here, the bank, was also erected for the movie Bye Bye Blue, so it definitely looks a bit more modern. You can see those are fake brick at the top. But so that means that the funeral home was for the movie. That hospital building down there was painted blue for Bye Bye Blue. But the inside of this place actually looks like it's really cool. It looks like it fits the part of being old. Like the wood has the patina. It was built in 1990, so I mean it's not super new or anything. It's what, 35 years old at this point? But it is very, very cool inside. Trying to give you guys a good look. It's hard with the glare in the window. The building was a movie front from the production of Bye Bye Blues. The community made it into a building around 1990. The chandelier is out of the Palliser Hotel in Calgary, and the safe is out of the Rowley Trading Post, so just over there. Johnny Storch constructed the farm scene. Some of the antiques that they have in here are beautiful, though. That stove there is gorgeous. Piano's gorgeous. And the actual building itself, trying to give you a good look. It's very, very nice inside. Now, I'm not sure if that model in there is supposed to be of this town or if it's something else, but yeah, again, one of those moments. It's too bad we can't get inside, but give you the best look we can. So that chandelier is from the Trading Post. Or sorry, the hotel. Beautiful chandelier, it's huge. Wow. Some of the stuff they have in here is just wild. And the way that they constructed it really does make it look like it's very old. If you walk over here, this is definitely been added recently. It looks like this is something that they'd use for maybe performances in the summer, concerts, stuff like that. Wild Rose Brewery, so maybe they have a patio up here. You can have some food, who knows? Love that you can see those grain elevators back there. That's just crazy. You don't see grain elevators all too often, so it's cool to see them in really good shape like that. Then if we go across the street, this is the Lion Oil Company, I believe that's what it's called. Now, this building isn't original. It was in very, very bad shape, so it was demolished and then rebuilt to match what it used to look like, which is pretty cool. I do believe that there's some classic cars still kept inside of the garage, so obviously that's going to be all locked up. This fuel pump is so cool. I do appreciate too that they have the information on some of the buildings. I really like that. Original garage was built in 1920. It was owned by the Lions Oil Ltd. In 45, Stewart Petroleum owned the lot, then Anglo America EXP Ltd., then Purity 99 Oil Ltd. Original building was deteriorating so badly it was demolished and replaced with a new structure. The front of the building resembles the old garage. Terry Hampton did the carpentry work. And hey, that's better than it just getting completely demolished. Now, hopefully you guys can see a little bit into there. Very cool garage, if I don't say so myself. So there's the sign. Looks like that's hand painted, probably fairly recently, if they had to redo the building. What do we got in here? Oh, we got an old classic in here. Might be a few, but I can't really see. But I bet you when it's open, you can go in and see the classic cars. So that's probably pretty cool to see. L. Leland and Co. Not sure what this was. Wow, look at the machine in there. That's crazy. What is that? If you guys know what that is, let me know. I have no idea. Printing press. The printing press was originally located in Hanna, Alberta, and was used around 1900 to 1920 and to the 30s. That's crazy. That is old.
Sam's Saloon is arguably the reason Rowley still exists today. One night in the mid-1970s, a small group of locals in the midst of a liquor shortage decided to break into the old boarded-up saloon and throw a party. This started talks of preserving Rowley's history and restoring it back to its former glory. The residents started by fixing up the saloon in the 1980s, renaming it Sam's Saloon after a beloved community member. Over the next 25 years, the town combined their efforts, restoring as much of Rowley as they could.
So this is Sam's Saloon. Now, this was originally a restaurant, and it ended up shutting down in the 1970s. Now, what's pretty cool about this is that at the end of the month, I'm not sure exactly what day, but one of the days at the end of the month, they have a pizza night, and people can come and join them and have pizzas. They make the pizzas in the saloon and I think in the trading post. But Sam's Saloon is very cool. I love like the Western style swinging doors. I love this as Sam's Saloon in those. And Judge Sinden, I might be wrong. Court services every Friday, 10 till 2. And I really love that they have on display in here some of the old bottles. Like that old crate there is from 1912. It was for special rye whiskey. We have an old 7-Up bottle holder right there. And then in this window we have even more empty bottles, which is pretty cool. You don't see that very often. Now, I can't really see into the saloon, so I'll have to put up some photos I found online. But, yeah. Now, we take a step back. This is the Rowley Trading Post, opened in the 1920s. And this is where they would go to get all of their groceries and stuff like that. This one actually does have an information sign on it, so we can take a read of that. But it was built and sold. It was built in the early 1920s. Dry goods and groceries could be purchased here. Mr. and Mrs. Charles Gardner owned and operated the store for nearly 20 years. Took new ownership in 1939. They ran it for 7 years, renaming it to Rowley Mercantile Store. Then Lauren and June Lamb, Leismer, ran it for 2 more years. And then the Clark family, Jim and Gus and their children Donna, Lloyd, and Judy, they ran it from 51 to 73. And it was the last business to close other than the grain elevators. So you got to think about that. That's a long time for these to be closed. And those grain elevators there stayed open just slightly longer. Love on it that you can see it says tinware, hardware. We have some old Niagara Dry ginger ale, lemon lime soda. Now, if you look inside, right now it's set up, I believe, for their pizza nights. But we got a few tables in there, and it's very cool. It has more of a diner look to it now with like antiques all around on display and antique advertisements than anything. But this was the general store. Oh, that's super cool. The Dan peanuts, 10 cents. You get some peanuts. You could select what type you want. The old Kodak brownie camera with some of the flash bulbs there. That old coffee thing. Old Toledo scale. Yeah, this place is awesome. Too bad it's not open, but I love that they keep this up and keep it in such good shape. What does it say? Magic baking powder. No aluminum. Is that what it's saying? No aluminum. That's good. It's open, but it's not. Now, when you look inside, there's a calendar on the wall there, and it's from 1965. And then there's one below it, 1993. And you can see there's quite a bit of old interior decor, stuff like that. A lot of old glassware, a lot of old bottles, a lot of old, like, what is that, a register, I guess? Some old photos. It's very, very cool. We do have the Drink Coca-Cola sign and a telegraph office, which is pretty cool. And in case anybody comes here thinking they can just get in, alarmed, monitored, and have video surveillance. So don't be that guy. Don't try to break in. We do have bathrooms that are open today. Then we'll go check out the community hall right there. Still have meetings probably here, I would imagine, from time to time, especially in the summertime. I'd guess this is where you could go and ask for a tour of the town itself. So tour's officially over August 26, 2024. Okay, so here's the pizza night thing. Thank you for joining us at pizza night. All of our workers in the hall and the saloon are volunteers, and we appreciate your patience as we cook the orders received as quickly as possible. Our ovens can only cook 30 pizzas at one time, and each oven full takes about 20 to 25 minutes. Very cool. Gueston Rally. Don't dig. Yeah, of course, don't dig. Don't mess with the property. Camping is free. You camp at your own risk. I'm surprised that you can camp here for free. You think you'd want to get some money from people so that you could fix up the buildings. The community hall here was built in 33 or 34. The kickoff for the project was a raffle. A crocheted doily made and donated by Mrs. Ed Bremer. An addition was added in 1974, including running water, entryway, and a kitchen. Very cool. So yeah, I feel like they definitely still use this. And this is a map here of where you can camp, what's private property, where you can go. So if you do happen to end up coming here, be respectful. Don't mess with the properties, obviously. Now I think I'm going to go straight to the grain elevators. So I've always been a very big fan of old train cars just being left behind. I wonder if this says anything. Oh, it's some old news articles. Yeah, train cars are always super cool. Oh, it looks like this one has a placard on it. This area is a unique and diverse region with distinct geographic landscape. Doesn't specifically talk about the train, so we're gonna just move on from that. Pretty deep, the snow here still. Oh, I'm going through. Wonder if they still open this up and let people go inside. The old train station. So obviously this is a dead line now. The line ceased being in operation, I believe, in 1996, and when that happened, the people that still lived here, that was a big hit to this town, because that was a source of people knowing it was here. And unfortunately, that was a source of exposure that had gone away now. So this train station here was operational from 1925 to 1965. Could you just imagine back in the day when trains would come roaring through here? They could go up to the grain elevators there, and they would move the agricultural products that they were making in this town. Wow. They've done such a good job keeping up these buildings for just being independent with no funding, really. This is clearly a passion project for the members of this community. There's no doubting that. And they really do keep it up quite well. It's very, very nice to see. We do have a couple broken windows, but honestly, not a huge deal.
Rowley's train station was built in 1922 by the Canadian Northern Railway, which later became part of the Canadian National Railway. Stations of this type were known as the Canadian Northern Third Class stations. There were a total of 57 stations built on the prairies using this plan between 1915 and 1924. 21 in Alberta, 29 in Saskatchewan, and 7 in Manitoba. Originally built with wood shiplap siding, it was stuccoed in 1939. The station closed in 1965 and was made into a museum in 1980. When it was operating, a family lived in the station house. Freight was dropped off and picked up off the platform and stored in the freight shed. The station master would tell the trains with the use of signals on the outside of the station to stop or pass through. Tickets were sold by him and people could wait in the waiting room. Take a moment and picture looking down the tracks and try to imagine what it must have been like back then waiting for the train. It was the major link to the outside world, carrying people, mail, and freight to points across Alberta and beyond.
Unlike any train station I've ever been to. Just picture this though. Try to with me at least. You're sitting here waiting for a massive freight train essentially to come by and pick you up, to drop off your supplies, just in the middle of kind of nowhere in the prairies. It's a crazy thing to think about. So these are the signals, obviously, that they were talking about. That's what it would tell them to stop or go. Canadian National Railways, Train Bulletin Board, date, Rowley, departures, due to leave, daily. I'm not sure if we can see inside. It would have been very, very cool inside of here. It's clear that it's a set up as a museum, obviously. This is cool. I like how this has a lock on it. This is awesome. Look at the controls on that. Very, very interesting. Yeah. I really can't imagine a train coming through here. It would just be incredible to see a line open back up and a train come through here again. It really would. And you can see the track doesn't look like it's in terrible shape, honestly, but it does just end over there where they've made the major road that goes through. They've just left this portion of the track to keep it as a museum. Wow. I'm gonna guess that that's the storage shed that they were talking about, that they would put whatever freight and stuff that they would receive from the train into. And it looks like it's on wagon wheels so they can move it maybe around at one point. Now I believe this is the storage shed it was talking about in the piece of paper in the window. Let's just make sure. Oh no, it's not. It's the threshing crew bunkhouse. Interesting. So this is a bunkhouse. This is a version of a modern day RV back in its era, pulled by a team of horses. It would be moved from one farm to the next by the threshing crews. They needed a place to sleep at night. Some of these bunkhouses had cooking facilities plus sleeping quarters. This bunkhouse was donated by a movie company and then was fixed up by Terry Hampton. Shout out to Terry Hampton. He did a lot of work here, it seems like, so that's very cool. Go Terry. I think this whole time filming we've only seen, only a few people drive through here, which is pretty insane to me. Here's the original train track. We also have one that would have run right up to the silos, but both of them obviously discontinued lines. Same with, like I said earlier, this freight car here. Now, I love old carts like this just sitting abandoned. Obviously this one's not abandoned, don't get me wrong, I know that, but it's just cool to see these. I've explored an abandoned one before, but it's cool to see one in a ghost town like this. Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like somebody has come in here and vandalized this, which sucks. Looks like this is one of them that has a cupola too, which is pretty cool. If I'm remembering right from my last train video, the cupola was so that they could spot if there was any issues on the track up ahead and they could tell whoever was driving the train. Could be wrong though. So this was a CP rail cart. Here's the identifier number if you want to look it up. CP434487. But it's pretty cool that they have this still here, honestly. Give you a look at this side. A little wood burning oven right there. It does suck though that somebody's come in and vandalized this. It's a big shame. Got some seating there. And of course the tracks end again. Now I believe grain elevators like this have basically become obsolete. We have much better modern ways of doing this, but Rowley has kept up with keeping these painted and maintained, it looks like, and they're actually in quite good shape. Boy, it's windy. I apologize, guys. Wow. Tractor and the wagon attached to it. Quite an old looking piece of equipment. That's for sure. Yeah, grain elevators are very, very cool. It's not something that we really have much of in Ontario, but on these prairie lands up here in Alberta, we've seen quite a few abandoned ones driving around. And I knew immediately as we drove by that this was Rowley when I saw these. I don't even know what it is. I don't know much about old farming equipment, so not really sure what I'm looking at with a lot of this. A Cox Hut Plow Co. Limited. In Brantford, Canada. If you guys know and you want to tell me, I'd love the information on what these are. This looks like it was a plow of some sort. I don't even know, man. And just remember, when you guys let me know stuff, I do try my best to look up as much as I can before coming to locations, but sometimes there's stuff that you just don't know is even going to be here, and this is one of these things I didn't know was even going to be here. You know, I'm human, I do make some mistakes sometimes, so I do apologize. The Alberta Pool Elevator Ltd. Rowley. Wow. They're huge too. You don't really realize it when you're right up next to it, but these grain elevators are massive. Not in terrible shape though. Nice paint. The letters are nice and bold. And actually having the equipment and the skill to paint this and fix this, like this would have taken time, especially when it's just people doing it and keeping it up independently without like funding and stuff, from what I understand at least. So just remember that with these buildings, it's pretty wild. Just picture this too, walking through and the train would be coming right down here. So awesome. Okay, now let's head over to the Schoolhouse Museum here. Schoolhouse definitely seems like it's a little bit worse for wear. Hopefully they are able to get some work done on these in 2025 before maybe they open up. The Prairie Museum School, 1911 to 1951. Interesting. There's not many windows I can really like poke you guys into, unfortunately, for that one. So we're just gonna keep on going. Have a great day, Rowley. Come back soon. Established 1910. So continue walking down these empty streets here. I believe at one point there's probably a bunch of abandoned houses still sitting here, and they just kept what was probably really historic versus just a bunch of old abandoned houses. So again, there's your map. To me, it looks like this is where you'd be allowed to camp, in this piece of property right here. This, back in the day, if you rode in on your horse, would have been where you would have been able to store your horse while you were in town. Livery barn, 1917 and 1967. Crazy. Then in here, oh yeah, it's like usually what we explore. That's crazy. That's real bad in there. Probably one of the wagons the horses would have pulled. This is a nice little house. I don't think anybody's living here anymore. There are a few houses that are pretty modern and people live in them, but this one, not 100% sure. I like it though, it's a nice home. Yes, that one is a private home, so we'll just leave that be. It says right on the door. Beautiful barn though. And then that way just leads you back some of the more modern houses. All right, Nowhere crew, thank you guys so much for joining me exploring Rowley in Alberta. A very interesting ghost town. Now, you can either consider it a ghost town or a heritage area that people have spent a lot of time and effort keeping up. I like to call it a ghost town because it gives off that vibe. It kind of looks like an old Western to me. I didn't realize that some of the buildings were part of a movie set. So Bye Bye Blues was filmed here. Legends of the Fall, I believe, also was filmed here in part. So pretty cool history of this place. And a lot of these buildings have some pretty interesting history as well. This is one that you guys can go check out. If you're near Drumheller in Alberta, where all the dinosaurs are, you drive about 30 minutes and you're in Rowley. Definitely worth a stop. If you do come here though, I'm just saying this, if you do come here, don't graffiti the buildings, don't break into the buildings. There's people that live around here and they've spent a lot of years and a lot of time and hard work and a lot of their own money keeping up these buildings so that they stay in this kind of shape and they still exist so people like us can come and see them. So don't be the person that ruins it. If you want to, come in the summer. They have tours apparently. I had to come in the winter, so I'd love to come back in the summer and if I could see inside of some of these buildings. So maybe I can make that happen. Maybe somebody that owns this, if you want me to come back, let me know. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, hit that like button, drop a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more. But with that, guys, I am out and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.